Hey guys, if you are sensitive to light, you may want to click off of this video. But this is a story time about the time that I found out I had a poltergeist in my house. Yes, so let's get into the story. So in August of 2022, I decided to move from Florida to Delaware. I took a position at the hospital in Wilmington, Delaware. So we moved there and we had rented a townhome there. It was like a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom. So before I moved there, like probably about a couple of weeks before I moved there, my best friend, she had the keys to the property because she lived close by. So she went there to kind of drop off some of the stuff that we needed. Some of the things I had ordered, she would just go in and kind of put it inside and lock the doors up. So the neighbor across the street had a friend that was staying here. So she told my friend, hey, I had a friend that was staying here and she moved out due to the electrical problems in the home. So just be careful. I know your friend is moving there, but just let her know. So my friend tells me, I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm like, oh, okay, the house is old. So, of course, maybe it's going to have some electrical issues. I can't expect everything to be perfect. So, I move into the house. And this is about the second or third night. As you can see, the lights are going haywire. How I realized that maybe it was an electrical problem, it might be a poltergeist, is because the lights would do this almost every night around the same exact time. And it wouldn't just do this in this room. It would follow me to wherever I went. So every time I would go into a room, the lights would start to do that. When I would leave the room, the lights would just stay put. So my son's room was like the heaviest because he had wall sconces and they were like the original to the home. And they would flicker on and off. And he always hated being in his room. He would complain about being in there. He would say that he felt something in there. He was being bothered. He was having nightmares. He would always end up in my bed at the end of the night. So I also noticed that when I walked into the home originally, there was a very strong, pungent smell of like mothballs and older people. And I know sometimes that just happens, but I equate that to that also being paranormal activity in the home. I've grown up around paranormal activity my whole entire life. My family is very spiritual. And before y'all get in my comments talking about y'all, you don't believe in God I grew up in the church and I believe in God heavily. That's the only reason why I'm not afraid of these things because I pray, I Palo Santo, I sage. My grandmother taught me prayers to say when things like this would happen and not to be afraid of things like this happening because these are just spirits trying to communicate with you. We have to also remember that there is a whole spiritual realm. We ain't gonna get into it today, but we're gonna talk about my experience. So I also noticed that my son, like towards probably about a year being into the home, I always kept my home very clean. And when I first moved in there, I noticed that they had mouse traps and I noticed they had traps for roaches, but I never paid any attention to it because I didn't see any mice or any roaches for a year. I just kept seeing centipedes, a lot of centipedes all over the place. And centipedes usually show up when there are other bugs and they kill the other bugs. But what I also was told is that when there's a lot of paranormal activity in a home, bugs will show up as well and rodents will show up as well. So, I don't know how true that is, but I noticed that that was the only time that I would see it. In my other homes, when I had paranormal activity, I didn't have that problem. But, and then this is a row home in the city. It's 100 years old. I'm like, can't expect it to not have no issues like that. And I had an experience where I did lay in my son's room. Like, so I had got COVID towards December of, I would say 2023. So that's like a whole year later. So in December of 2023, I had got COVID and I went to take my air mattress to sleep in my son's room. My partner came to come live with us at the time. I didn't want him to get sick and my son was sick with COVID as well. So we just huddled up in the same room. I figured just to make sure he was okay and safe and I can get him everything that he needed, let me just go to his room. And my son suffers from asthma. So I really wanted to make sure I was on top of him and watching him, through that whole process of COVID. I slept in there about 6 nights. On the second night, I felt something choke me up out of my sleep. Like somebody put their hands around my throat and literally yanked me up out of my sleep. I immediately went into prayer because I was angry. Like, don't come in here doing all that. And see, you know, that's why you don't hear hauntings of black people, to be honest with you, because we don't play all that. All that flickering the light stuff, baby. You ain't paying no light bill. You ain't paying no water bill. Turn my shit off. Okay? Turn it off. Stop. Don't come in here flicking my lights on and off. Like, you're doing too much. If you come in here and sit down and act like you got some sense. You want to communicate, that's fine. So when that situation happened, when I felt the hands around my neck and that lifted me up out of my sleep, I immediately got upset. Cause what are you doing? Don't put your hands around my throat. Cause I fight ghosts. I don't care, invisible ghosts. I fight cats, dogs, roaches, everything. I fight them all. Don't put your hands on me. Are you crazy? Anyway, I got to praying because I said, you know what? You know, the supernatural battle is probably something I ain't going to win. Let me go on ahead and call on a big homie. Let me go on ahead and let God know what's up. So I always pray and I always Palo Santo and sage my home, regardless of what the situation is. I also noticed that sometimes I would be in my room and the door would sway back and forth. And then sometimes I would say something that the spirit didn't like and the door would slam or the door would open. And I would have to let them know, don't slam no doors in my house. You're already coming up in here disturbing my peace. And a lot of times when spirits are trying to communicate with you, it's either because their spirit has not, their soul has not transitioned on from this world. And it could be that something tragic happened in that home. Or maybe even if that person just died and that was just their home and they just didn't have any peace and weren't able to leave this earth to go to the other realm. You know, and that's why it's good to understand that not all spirits are evil spirits, but those that are evil spirits and of demonic forces, we don't accept those and we don't communicate with that. Okay. And we let God know about that. And see, if I thought it was anything like severely demonic, I would have gotten up out of that house, even though, you know, I do feel like you try to attack me in my sleep. I was like, you got that one. You better not do it again. And nothing else ever happened like that again. But and then my sister came to stay with me for a little bit. She also said that she felt something in his room as well. So I had to heavily pray over there. But I was glad that somebody was in the room with him, because a lot of times, you know, he would want to sleep with me all the time. And that was okay. That wasn't a problem. It just was like I wanted him to get accustomed to being in his own room. But I didn't want anything to be messing with him or bothering him at the end of the day, because that's not what, you know, don't nobody want that. Nobody wants to be woken up out of their sleep like that. So, yeah, you guys like, comment, share my story. And if you want to hear more like this, I have plenty of more stories to go. And you guys enjoy your Tuesday. Bye.